Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome back. It is a new year. We are continuing with our learning. Kids are excited to start up again. I'm excited to start up again. Today we started with lesson 12. Lesson 12 is multiplying and dividing, and we're just practicing that more and more. So make sure you are practicing those multiplication facts. We should know all our facts by now. And also make sure you know your division, because if you can multiply, you can divide. Okay, the test is going to be on next week for this. So we're not going to have a test on this week because the way that the week fell with the Monday off, and then we wind up starting the lesson today. And the length of the lesson, that means we're going to go up until next week with the lesson, which pushes our test for, actually I have it here, it's going to be on January the 13th, which is Wednesday. That is the test date for this lesson. And also make sure you pay attention to the newsletter, because I have all homework, important dates, all that in the newsletter. And if you have any questions, always feel free to send me a message. So we're going to go ahead and jump right on in on today. So like I said, today we were working with multiplication and division. We got a new vocabulary word today, but before I move on to the new vocabulary word, I just want to refresh your mind with the older ones so that we can get back on track for where we left off with. So one of those words was product. And product is the answer to your multiplication equation or problem. And then we also have quotient. We started quotient right before we left for the break. Quotient is the answer to your division problem or equation. So those were two vocabulary words that we were working with before we left, and then today we added a new one. And I know you can see that when you look at the homework sheet, is actually number 1, which we did in class, because I like to go through the vocabulary with them so they can get a good understanding of what that word means. So number 1 is worked out for everyone on today before they went home. Now, that vocabulary word they gave us today was fact family, or fact families. So what that means, it's multiplication and division equations that use the same numbers. So they will have the same numbers in the division equation, and they will have the same number in the multiplication equation. The only thing that will be different is the order of the numbers, but they will have the same numbers. And because they have the same numbers, it's like a family. They are the same, so they make them a family. That's why we call them fact family. So that's what we worked on today. So let's go ahead and look at number 2, because like I said, we did number 1 in class, because I wanted to make sure the kids got a great understanding of that vocabulary word. So we're going to move on to number 2 now. And number 2 says, and that again, that's on page 253. So if your student has their sheet torn out, it's going to be the one that is 253. Lesson 12, session 1. So number 2 says, how can you use fact families, that's our vocabulary word, to help find 40 divided by 8? Explain. So we have 40 divided by 8. And they want to know, how can we use fact families to help us solve this? Okay, so one way we can do this is to set up a matching multiplication equation, because remember, if you can multiply, you can divide. So a matching multiplication sentence for this equation will help us figure this out. So first of all, we need to realize and remember what each number stands for in that division equation. Now, before we left, I explained to my kids that the first number in your division equation will always be your total, always. So, right off the bat, I already know that 40 is my total. And I like to write and label things, because you know Miss Newman loves a label. So that's my total. Now the next number in your division equation can change. It can vary. So that 8 could be my groups or my size, or the quotient, which is the answer to my division problem, could be my groups or my size. It's whichever one you prefer, or whichever situation the problem is asking you. So, but for me right now, they didn't really tell me what they wanted me to make that 8. So I automatically just make that my groups. So I'm gonna make that my groups. So what you could do, like I told my kids in class, they could draw it out. You can draw 8 groups and then pass out all 40 equally until you pass them all out and then see how many you have in each group. But what I really want to get to is, because they asked me to use fact families. So remember, fact families, I explained to you, could be multiplication and division problems that use the same factors. So because this is division, I'm going to use the multiplication to help me solve this. So I'm going to put 8 as my groups, as I told you. So when I write my multiplication equation, I'm going to put my blanks. So blank times blank equals blank. So the first number in my multiplication problem is going to be my groups, and I'm going to label that as groups. The second one will be my size, and then the last one will be my total, or if we want to use our vocabulary word, we can also say the product. Now, all I have to do is take my numbers from my division equation and put them where they go in my multiplication equation. So that's what I'm going to do. So since my total in my division equation was 40, that means my total in my multiplication equation is going to be 40. And let me do that in a different color because it's kind of blending in and I want it to stand out. So I'm going to do it in a different color. So this is going to be 40 and my total. Now, the next number was 8, and 8 was my groups, and remember groups was the first line in my multiplication equation, so I'm going to go ahead and put the 8 there. So now when I look at this, it looks easier to solve, especially if I'm not too good with division yet. If I put it in a multiplication equation, then I can figure out what that division answer is going to be, because remember, if you can multiply, you can divide. So I can ask myself, what times 8 will give me 40? Well, you can do a skip count to help you figure it out if you're not quite sure. So the skip count you would skip count by 8 until you get to your total of 40. So let's do a skip count. I'm going to skip count by 8 till I get to 40. So that would be 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. So when I got to 40, I have 5 fingers. So that means my answer is 5. So now we know that the answer to this division equation is 5. So it asks us to explain how we can use fact families to help us find out what the answer to this division problem is. You can put that if you know the multiplication problem of 8 times 5 equals 40, and because it is a fact family and they use the same numbers, then you can figure out that the missing number would be 5. So I know I said a lot, but I'm going to shorten it in my answer. Okay, so again, I'm going to reread the question and then answer the question. It says, how can you use the fact families to help find 40 divided by 8? Explain. So I can write the multiplication problem and find the missing number. Because in fact families, we use same numbers. Because if I know I have my 8 here, my 8 there, I have my 40 here, my 40 there, and the number that I don't have is 5, then I would know that's a 5. And again, you can double check that by doing your skip counting and making sure that is correct. So now let's go ahead and go to number 3. I'll write that on my board. So number 3. Number 3 says, and that is on page 254. Jada has 28 muffins. She puts the same number of muffins into each of 4 boxes. How many muffins are in each box? Okay, so what Ms. Newman likes to do when she gets story problems like that, I like to go sentence by sentence, and I like to get an understanding of what information that they are giving me in each sentence, because sometimes when you read everything all together, it can be a lot. But if you go step by step or sentence by sentence, it's easier for you to understand what they are asking you to do. And also you can label things, because Ms. Newman loves to label. A label helps you to understand what pieces of information means what. So first sentence they said is Jada has 28 muffins. So that's how much she has. So that tells me that 28 muffins, that's my total. So I would circle 28 muffins, and then I would write total on top. Okay, so that's my first sentence. That's my first piece of important information. Let's go to the next one. It says, she puts the same number of muffins into each of 4 boxes. Okay, 4 boxes. That sounds very important. That sounds like something that I need. So 4 boxes, that could either be my groups or my sizes. Well, since it's the box and you usually put things inside of a box, so and like in groups, you can group things inside of a box. So I would assume and know that the 4 boxes would be my group. So I would write that. I wouldn't write it because you already have it, but I would circle it and then label that as my groups. But Ms. Newman is going to write it. You can just circle it. Okay, so I have my 4 boxes as my group. So the thing that I don't have, but before I say that, let's keep reading. So it says, how many muffins are in each box? Well, that's that keyword. Remember I told you whenever you see the keyword each, that usually means size. Because how much it is in each means 1. So how much is it in 1 box? So what I don't know here is the size. So that's what I'm looking for. This is the unknown. Now, to figure out what's going on, I like to draw pictures because this is a story problem. They gave me a nice story about some muffins and a box, and Ms. Newman loves a picture, and usually when you read stories, there are pictures drawn with your stories. So we can do the same thing in math. We can draw pictures to help us get a better understanding of what's happening. So because I have 4 boxes, Ms. Newman is going to draw 4 boxes. 1 box, 2 boxes, 3 boxes, and 4 boxes. So these are my 4 boxes. And they told me that I have a total of 28 muffins. And they want to know how much is inside of each box. Right now I don't have anything in each box, and I don't know just yet. But there is a way that I can figure this out. I can figure this out by passing out all my muffins equally until I pass them all out. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to pass out all my muffins. So let's go ahead and do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Okay, so I have passed out all 28, and each box got the same amount. So now I would just look to see how many I have in each box, because the question asked me how many muffins are in each box. Well, inside of this box there's 7. Inside of this one it's 7. The third box has 7, and the fourth box has 7. So each box got 7 muffins. So the answer to that would be 7. But I'm not finished. You have to do the equation. So usually if they give you the total, my mind goes directly to division. So I'm going to write a division equation. So remember, in your division equation, the total always goes first. So I would put my 28 first. So 28 divided by, and then they gave me 4 boxes. So I'm dividing my 28 muffins into 4 boxes. So divided by 4. And we found out that inside of each of my boxes was 7 muffins. So this will equal 7. Okay? Now, that's all you have to do for that equation. Now all we have to do is answer the question that they asked us, because we have our drawing, we have our equation, and now we have to answer the question with the word sentence. So let's do that. So the question asked us, I'm going to read it again, how many muffins are in each box? Well, we would answer that with a sentence. There are 7 muffins in each box. All right, and now number 3 is complete. Now, we do have another one, and it's number 4. Number 4 just wants us to check it says check your answers, show your work. One way we can check our answers is to do our fact family. We wrote the division equation, so I can do a multiplication equation to check that answer, because remember, with our facts family is multiplication and division problems that have the same numbers. So I can do that. That will help me check it. So I'm going to do number 4. I'm going to squeeze it in on here. So this is number 4. And if I want to write the matching multiplication fact to that division equation, all I would have to do is change the order of my numbers. So my groups was 4, so I'm going to put 4 first, because remember my multiplication sentence, my groups usually go first. Then the size is next, so 4 times, and the size we figured out was 7. I didn't put it here, but it was 7. I'll put it here by my question mark, so you guys will see that. So I'm going to write 7 next, and then equals my product. Well, the product to this was 28, because they told me the total. Remember, product, that's your total. So that would be 28. And that would be a check for your division problem. And how you know you did it correctly, you can always do a skip count. You can skip count by 4 till you get to your 7th finger and see what number you have. Or you can skip count by 7 till you get to your 4th finger and see what number you have. Any one of those will work. But that would be a great check for that problem, and you get to use a fact family to help you check your number 3. And that is it for today. If you have any questions, make sure you send that to me, or you can drop it in the comments below. that is about it. So I will see you guys on tomorrow for another video. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.